I watch people struggle so much with feeling that they have to count calories, they have to read packages and stick to strict numbers. You actually don't have to do it.
Welcome to another episode of this show. My name is Erika and I will be the host for this conversation with Gillian Killiner. She is a dietitian and she helped thousands of people optimize their diet and health. Gillian has a deep passion in making the difference at scale. She has now joined Caroline Girvan's YouTube fitness coach channel with more than 1.1 million subscribers to advise the community on nutrition. As ever, this episode is sponsored by 33 Fuel Naturals for Nutrition. So if you're looking to bring your performance and recovery to the next level, naturally, go to 33fuel.com. In the meantime, enjoy this conversation with Gillian Killiner. Welcome, Gillian. It's a real pleasure having you as a guest. I'm very excited to have you on the podcast today.
Many thanks, Erica, for inviting me.
So you have been a successful dietitian for 24 years. But what I find particularly fascinating is your own health journey.
Yes. For me, I was one of these people that always thought I was untouchable. I ate well. I dealt with everything. I was the person that, I suppose I felt that I helped fix others. So there was nothing that I needed to worry about myself. And then it all fell a bit apart when I had my third child. I got quinsy in pregnancy. It kind of spiraled into destroying my thyroid. And I didn't actually want to think that I was ill. So I kind of let it go on. And then eventually I went to the GP and was like, I'm really fatigued. I think I might have a vitamin D deficiency, because it was very much in the media at that time. That's 10 years ago. And actually, the GP was quite helpful, and he took a variety of bloods and came back that I had an autoimmune condition called Hashimoto's, and my thyroid wasn't working. So because I am a trained dietitian, I've worked in the NHS, I thought, well, okay, that's nice to know. Let's take the medication, which is levothyroxine, and that will be it. And actually, sadly, it wasn't. There was a lot more that I needed to address and deal with in my health to optimize myself back to where I needed to be. And that included, really readdressing not so much dietary things in totality, but key specific stuff. So optimizing my vitamin D was essential. Maybe looking at, things like gluten and so on. So there was a major shift in the way that I started to think about people with autoimmune conditions, chronic ill health, inflammation. And so that actually was where my business kind of came from, because I decided that actually there wasn't a lot of people doing what I do. And I was able to fix myself. My autoimmune antibodies were up in 300 at the time of my diagnosis. And then I got them down to 12. So, therefore, in the terminology, it would mean that I was completely in remission, cured from the autoimmune side of things. Sadly, my thyroid didn't come back. It was completely gone. I'd had an ultrasound scan, and that showed that that was no longer viable. So yeah, I now, fix lots of people with the same kind of areas that they're struggling with and they can't get their finger on. So that's me in a nutshell.
You had a great success so improving your own health through applying your nutritional knowledge. Were your doctors surprised?
I think doctors and general practitioners tend to be very interested, but obviously they're bound and they have to follow guidelines, and certain areas of health just don't get caught up with guidelines. And so therefore, sometimes things are behind in our current medical practice. And that's why I stepped outside and went round that to fix myself. I, therefore, am one of these people that looks at all the medical stuff. It's really valuable. It's really important to know the evidence-based stuff, but also to be able to implement maybe new technologies or new ideas or new science that's coming out, and also take a look at that. And I work closely with bloods. And so therefore GPs and medical practitioners are really important to be part of that team so that we do work together. But yes, I do think there was a bit of skepticism that I was going in the right direction at the beginning until I went back and they were like, oh, you're a different person. And I'm like, yes, I feel so much better. So yeah, I think if you can show people, and certainly medical practitioners, that things can actually succeed by using diet and lifestyle and health changes, then they're open to suggestions like that going forward.
One of the messages that you spread out is listen to your body. And I find it really interesting because listen to your body is a very simple message, but it's very, very difficult to do.
I think this is what happens to a lot of people. We actually don't listen. We know that we may be not sleeping well. We know that we might be feeling low in mood, or reaching for the sugar, or reaching for the coffee, or reaching for the alcohol to keep us propped up. And we just ignore it because we know that that's getting us through each day. And for me, actually, the catalyst was that I was emotionally drained, physically drained. I had 3 small children under the age of 4. I was really, dealing with a lot going on. And that's why I kind of thought, right, I can't keep going on feeling like this. So I went to actually, I did think it was a vitamin D issue. I didn't think of anything more significant at that point. But once I heard that, yes, I needed to deal with my health in a bigger scale, that really was the catalyst for me to address all those things that I was experiencing. I was having things like brain fog. I was coming to clinical work, fired up, working away, but then I'd collapse afterwards in terms of, the ability to keep going. I did have, the need to go to bed early, and you ignore these things thinking it's just life, but actually it's not. And you should, and if you are suffering, then you shouldn't ignore it. But I think the number one thing is, don't shut it away and think it's going to go away. What ends up happening is you just get sicker and sicker, and more things start to fall apart. I always talk about people being like an orchestra, and if the violins are off key, then it's going to all sound bad. So if we can fix one part, then your body is in harmony and it sounds lovely. Whereas all these things that go wrong, it's a terrible noise, and it's awful to not feel good.
Another of your messaging that I find that really strong is don't give up. And I think it's very important because especially in today's society, where it looks like the quick fix, everything is immediate gratification, immediate result, next day delivery, a silver bullet to fix anything. It's just like it's kind of obvious. And in reality, what you need to do to achieve anything is just turning up, keep doing it, and never give up. So I love this message to don't give up. And what does it mean for you that don't give up?
Is such a valuable and really important part of it all. And I think society has also led to us being quite needy in feeling that if we don't achieve what everybody else seems to achieve in a week, well, we're failures. And actually that is so not the case. And it is about consistency. It is about trying things and making it work for a period of minimum 2 months, because our bodies take a while to adjust. And then what you want to do is reassess. So definitely when I see people in my practice as a dietitian, we make sure that we do something and we do it for 6 to 8 weeks consistently. And then if it's not working, then you will change it up. There's nothing about failure. It's just working with you as an individual to work out what are these areas that you need to tweak? And it's tweaking that works long term, because once you've established a core kind of routine where you are enjoying yourself again, you can manage the things that you've implemented, taking the time to, put them in over a period of time, not all at once, which is a major problem that people love to do, is create even more stress and pressure and put, 5 or 6 different things that they want to change, and they do it all in the same day. And then they haven't got a clue what's working and what's not. So it's all about being strategic, putting things in, keeping it going for a while, reassessing, and then tweaking. And our bodies actually then, like to be challenged. That's what we are. Our predecessors went through life, and they didn't sit around just chewing chicken drumsticks. They went out and had to fight and hunt for things. So yes, there was an element of people talk about these hunter-gatherers and how that's the most wonderful thing, and we should all go back to that. They did die early. They didn't have the most enjoyable life, but at the same time, they had the mechanisms of that fight and flight response. And that's what we sometimes overlook in our own natural bodies. We do need to change it up once we've established something. But sometimes people just go one end of the spectrum to the other, and they don't come back into the middle. And that's the bit that I think we need to always focus on, being able to come back into the middle of what is working for you, and not feel like you have to put yourself under an endurance that's going to be painful. It can be nice and enjoyable, and they shouldn't feel guilty.
I'm actually very excited for you, because now I know that you are also working as a nutritionist advisor with Caroline Gillians. She is a brilliant online personal trainer. And I have been using her YouTube videos, epic, through lockdown. Mm-hmm. Yeah. She has 1.1 million subscribers. She's doing a great job to put so much value out there. It must be so really nice to be involved with a big community, as this gives you the possibility to make the difference in such a scale.
Absolutely. It's been wonderful to have been invited by Caroline to come on board and really just assist with the day-to-day questions. And I do 5 o'clock in the Friday evening slot where I answer questions, and it's kind of a live session, but it's me typing on my keyboard rather than me chatting, because it can become, I think, too focused on one person, whereas when I'm doing the typing, I can at least answer at least 20, 30, 40 questions in an hour, whereas I know for a fact that if I was sitting chatting away to, it would only be 5 or 6 people that get the benefit. So that's a nice part of the community, and it really does help, I think, ground people into knowing that they don't have to do something that's very difficult. It is a matter of just getting started and enjoying Caroline's workouts, and then also eating and thinking about the foods and making them as healthy choices, but also good quality. It's all about quality nutrition as well, and that's really important. And if they need to take additional proteins or things, that I can guide them with that as well. What is wonderful to see, and that's why I like being part of it, is that people are succeeding, they're successful, and they are showing their pictures of their journey. But the other major thing is their journey has taken 6 to 12 months. It hasn't been, look at me 2 months later and I'm, this size, and now I'm this size. Unrealistic stuff is so disappointing, but it's wonderful that the people that are showing up their pictures are actually genuinely saying it's taken 6 to 12 months to have made these changes.
This community, it's incredible, because it can really give it to you the opportunity to speak with more people. You have such a beautiful knowledge, and your approach is food first.
Yes, it's true.
Which are the most common pain points that you find that people have with nutrition?
So I think this one is the big one. And I actually did address it in a video, which is on my YouTube channel. And it's all about macros and myth busting macros, because I also am part of different communities or different Facebook groups and so on. And I watch people struggle so much with feeling that they have to count calories, they have to read packages and stick to strict numbers, and they don't actually work. Not, yes, people do very well on them. That I cover off on. If you're a counter of calories and protein and fats, etc., and that works for you, I'm not going to take that away from you. But if you're someone that struggles and it's just become an ordeal and you feel like it's a battle that is not working, you actually don't have to do it. It's not an essential criteria to be healthy. In fact, why are you reading package label foods anyway? That signifies that you haven't got the message that it should be natural, healthy foods that don't tend to have package labels on them. If you're eating a good quality piece of meat or protein from nuts and seeds or vegetables, they don't tend to have huge amounts of other ingredients and therefore not huge amounts of nutritional labeling. So that would worry me, that when people start to just be package based, that's very much a wrong direction. But it is, I do feel sometimes that people get too fixated with calorie counting and nutrient counting, and they miss the point. Now, in saying that, it is good to know what a portion of chicken or fish or protein is, because I think women especially undereat valuable protein sources, thinking that isn't, that shouldn't be for them. They shouldn't be able to eat such a big portion. And actually, a good portion of chicken, fish, eggs, tofu, whatever their protein source is, if they don't have a clue what they're doing, then yes, have a look, weigh out a piece of meat or chicken or tofu or beans, pulses, do that for one or two goes and get a visual, and then leave that behind and start using their intuition if they are able to do that. Now, intuitive eating is something that I do promote, and as long as the person is able to relax around food, visualize food, smell their food, ensure that it's something that they take time to eat, then their brain and gut start to work together and go, yeah, I'm full. But 90% of the people that I see try to eat healthy and they're sitting at their desk and they're wolfing it in, or they're sitting in front of their TV and they're wolfing it in, and they haven't got often a very good understanding of what they've just consumed. And therefore, they go on to overeat, and that's the vicious circle that's created. Now, that's a blanket statement. I don't mean to tar everyone with the same brush, but that is a very common problem that I see people asking about macros and calorie counting, and can you work out what you need? And sometimes I just say, take a step back and just start eating good quality, nutrient rich foods and take it from there. And if you then, as I say, in 6 to 8 weeks time are really still not getting the balance right, then maybe it's time to start looking at a few areas that they need to address and tweak it.
A quick word from our sponsors. The most excellent, most wonderful, most natural 33 Fuel Natural Sports Nutrition. When you're looking for the best possible nutrition products for your performance, your health, and your well-being, get yourselves over to 33fuel.com. And now, let's get back to the show.
If someone makes a significant change in their training or training goal, do you think they should change or adapt their nutrition to match?
Certainly, you would want to look at a baseline plan of what they're currently doing. So some people are very, very good at the sports stuff and the exercise and the training, and they kind of think that the food will carry them through. And actually, I do see a lot of people for performance purposes, and you want to nail down, the benefits of the nutrition as best you can. And then actually that can be fluid and flexible to meet your demands, depending whether you're doing a marathon or you're doing a CrossFit or you're doing Caroline Girvin workout. And that is why going back to my previous answer, tracking calories every day statically doesn't always work for those types of people, because if it is a fluid workout and you are doing maybe, a 10K run one day, you may need more calories than when you're sitting on the sofa the next day, but you may be in a situation where your body's still metabolically active from the run the night before, so you still might need more energy. And so it becomes messy and complex if you don't know what you're doing. So sometimes it's easy to be simple, do the exercise, but keep the nutrition good, focusing on the proteins, good carbohydrates, lots of fruits and vegetables, nuts, seeds, dairy if you want dairy, non-dairy alternatives, making sure you've got your calcium, magnesium, potassium, all of those essential key electrolytes as well, with, your sodium. People actually sometimes go too strict with themselves and they miss the point of when they're sweating and they're active and they're in a hot country, they're actually excreting a lot of sodium, and they need to replenish that for heart health or, cellular integrity and so on. So, there's a lot of things that when you become too focused on one area, you overlook the rest of the nutrients. So once you get a good balance of, a variety of nutrition every day, you shouldn't go too far wrong.
Yeah, no, that make a lot of sense. But it's kind of interesting because deep down we all know that we should, look at our health, eat well, eat fresh, do exercise, maybe in some cases work a little bit less hard, but changing habits is so difficult. What is your advice for people that are looking for making positive nutrition habit changes?
There's loads of them, but the ones that I want to focus on would be the fact that people are too strict, first and foremost, and they jump into, the biggest restriction possible, and then it's an epic fail. And 2 weeks later, they're starving, they're miserable, they want that pizza, and then they go and sadly go the extreme, and the weekend is spent over excessive eating, drinking, whatever has been cut out, then comes back in. Again, that's a very generalized approach to what I've just said. That doesn't mean everybody's like that, but for sure, if we do things that are too strict and too difficult, we don't tend to enjoy them long term. So my major focus is do things that are simple to change, but implement them in a period of time. We know that it takes 7 attempts to change someone's like for something that they don't like. So let's say you don't like avocado, and avocado has been popular everywhere about avocado on toast, avocado with egg. Everybody eats it every minute of the day. So I get a lot of patients that come to me and go, I'd so love to eat avocado, but I don't know how. So, it's picking something like that and going, right, well, it takes 7 different attempts. You have to try it again. And if you don't like it the way that it comes in its natural form, then you can change it. So mash it, add some garlic, add some lemon juice, add some salt. So it's being clever, refiguring out what flavors that person likes, and then implement it to that food group, and then they might like to enjoy it. Another area I think is often overlooked when people are trying to make habit changes is that they don't actually give themselves the things that they like, but in the right amount. So, for example, I believe in the 80-20 rule. So you're eating 80% really nice foods, and then you can still have that bit of chocolate, or, if it's a birthday, have some birthday cake. Don't restrict to the point where you are not being part of a social group with your friends, your family. It's very disheartening to be standing there watching everybody else doing something that you want to do. You're better off to get involved, enjoy yourself, don't overindulge, don't over excessively eat. What we have this habit of with our hormones, our serotonin, is that, you open the floodgates and then it's like, oh, I need to keep eating. And we know we've got 2 releases of serotonin in the brain, but also in the gut. And if we love something and our brain is telling us we love it, it actually delays the serotonin release in our gut for longer. So it means that we have to keep eating more of it before we actually get the serotonin release to say, hey, we've just had enough. So it's a fascinating science behind how we get that dopamine release and reward to say, hey guys, we've had plenty of this, I'm really happy now. It's when we know in our brain that it's something we enjoy, it actually slows the release of it in our gut, so we actually consume more, and that's can be a negative to people. So it's managing that, knowing that we are all tempted by certain things and just factoring them in each day, meaning then that you're not going to have a massive binge in 2 weeks because you haven't been able to enjoy anything and it's become a complete misery or worrying. And there's a lot of eating disorders I have found have come out of COVID.
It's interesting that you're saying eating disorders, people that were at home, what they do, it's or not eating or eating too much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, eating too much. Or a lot of young girls have gone onto whatever TikTok stuff and they're told to drink 4 liters of water a day, not to eat till 3 o'clock in the afternoon. You know, they are brainwashed into thinking that they are, and now they're just in mess. It's awful. So I'm seeing more and more of these kids coming to me, having watched all of this terrible stuff. And then they're watching YouTube all day, every day, people cooking, and, you know, they won't eat, but they're watching other people cook and eat. And it's just terrible.
Yeah. How do you explain to people how to change their diet, the daily diet? What do you analyze basically what they are eating? And you are providing a different menu?
So usually what happens is when someone is looking to change their diet, whether it's for health reasons or whether it's for sport performance, I always ask them to complete a questionnaire and a 7-day food diary, because it gives me the opportunity to see what they're doing during the week and if there's any major changes during the weekend, because a lot of people find that, you know, they'll be so perfect and then it all goes wrong at the weekend. So it's really good to capture all of that. I also ask them in terms of additional things, what their exercise routines are, how much fluid they're drinking, is there caffeine involved, is there alcohol involved, how are they sleeping, do they have any gut issues? And that all gets compiled into, you know, a really nice piece of information for me. And then when we meet, we go through all of that detail, explore other avenues, possibly to check whether they do have any other additional problems that they hadn't even thought about. You know, some people have chronic diarrhea as a runner. Other people have a lot of bloating. Other people just have poor, recovery. Their DOMS is really unpleasant, or they have fatigue all the time, and they just accept that. And that's what I fine tune for them. So we nitpick it all. I'm a detective when it comes to everything that needs to be addressed. And then we go through the motions of dealing with it in stages. So it's not too complex, not too difficult. They get to learn, you know, the importance of why are they eating like this? You know, if you take someone, for example, who misses a breakfast because they think fasting is good, but then they get to 11 o'clock in the morning and then they're down the coffee shop getting a massive milky coffee and donuts, then really you'd be better off to think, right, well, if this is becoming a problem, let's address it, and let's maybe bring in a breakfast every now and again and see, does that change the way that you crave sugars? Or let's think about how much protein is actually in your day. A lot of people, as I say, miss the whole side of the benefits of good quality protein and nutrients. So it's tweaking all of them and taking them through a journey of understanding that it hasn't to be grueling, it hasn't to be difficult, it can be tasty using herbs and spices. There's nothing forbidden. It's just making sure that we use the right sources of fat rather than processed stuff. And really, I actually find that I liberate people in their diets rather than, a lot of people think they're coming to me and they're going to be eating a lettuce leaf every day, and that's going to be rubbish. And so when they actually get to speak to me and we go through the whole information, you can see the sigh of relief, and they're going like, oh, wow, this sounds really good. Yeah, I love this. And so when they come back to me, you know, a couple of weeks later, they're like, yeah, I can't believe how I feel. I'm sleeping so much better. My hair's growing better. I'm able to work out better, you know, all these positive ticks in the box. And if we don't have the gut working well, we might do a bit of gut rebalancing, and the dysbiosis that they're experiencing then needs to be sorted before they can eat healthy. So as I say, there's lots of layers that you can do to bring somebody to a good place to get them optimal. And then the activity after that is critical, the sleep, the fluids. And it's wonderful when you can bring it all together for someone.
It's good that you're giving this understanding that actually is just a change of habit, choosing the right food for you. As you said, that you can improve your sport performance through food, through diet. If you have to give 3 top tips, what you will say?
So certainly for performance, I think a lot of people overlook their gut health. And we know that, and I'm a bit of a nerd when it comes to gut health. It's my passion area as well as autoimmune issues. But we know that people who are fit, well, exercise, that they have a different gut diversity to someone who's sedentary. And we have different types of bacteria. We know, excuse me, Akkermansia is a great bacteria that we know makes people who are quite active and exercise. If you've got a high level of that in your gut, that you actually can be more lean. It's really a very useful piece of gut bacteria that we know is excellent for people who are active. We also have the problem where I think we touched on already that people put up with gut dysbiosis. So if you can really work on that, that's important for being able to get to the next level. And then when you are feeling good, then you do want to focus on nutrition, nutrients, good quality, natural. And that's where food comes in. But we live in such a fast-paced environment that a lot of people find it very difficult to go a couple of steps back and start creating things. So that's why I also then make sure that people don't feel that that's a negative, and they can use certain, food things that are like your, even for you with your 33, fuel protein drinks and so on. They're wonderful for people who are in that fast pace of life, but want something that's as natural as possible. And so using different useful tools will mean that people can keep that going longer and be healthier. For the whole plan is to keep it lifelong. So it needs to be fitting with them.
Which is the good food for gut?
Wow, that's a question because we've got so much. We know the most obvious ones that people are trying to pack into their extra diets, which, again, it may put them off if they don't like it, but fermented foods are fabulous for sure. So we've got fermented sauerkrauts, we've got kefir, we've got kombuchas, and they've become a massive explosion on the market. And you can make them yourself as well, which is wonderful. But if you're not that big a fan, even just good old fruits and vegetables, our recommendations in the UK are like 3 to 5 portions a day, and people don't even get that. Whereas actually, if you look in Europe and the Nordic countries, they are 10 portions of fruit and veg a day. So, we are nowhere close. And that gives you polyphenols, it gives you antioxidants, it gives you fiber, it allows short chain fatty acids to be really rebooted by the bowel, and that's where we get 10% of our energy as well. And there's so many benefits from things that we don't even recognize as being important. And then you've got your high fiber carbohydrates, you've got your seeds and nuts and legumes, and they all go into feeding that bacteria. There's so many different ways that they do that, and as long as you've got a good balance of all of those, you're going to have a great gut diversity.
Yeah, it's amazing. Your immune system will be so strong, bulletproof, the real way.
Absolutely, very true. And you can measure that because, for me, I actually look back, and because I had 3 children all quite close together, I remember thinking, I went from one head cold to another after I had my 3rd child, and I just was under the weather. But you just get on with it, and you think, oh, it's because, and you put an excuse down. I haven't had a head cold in years, and it's you can really know that when your immune system is good, you can tackle a lot more. Now, I've got to say, we had COVID at Christmas because my husband, as I said, is a GP, and he unfortunately picked it up from work. But we were very fortunate. All of us just isolated, sat in front of the TV for Christmas, didn't go anywhere. We took it low key because we were really sure that, it's very hard to know at that point how ill you'd become. And actually none of us, a little bit of loss of taste and smell, but other than that, and fatigue, but nothing more than that, which we put down to hopefully, being quite healthy and fit.
So I have to say it's been a beautiful to have you on the show. If any of our listeners want to reach you, how they can contact you?
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. And for sure, they can contact me by finding my website, which is www.121, and that's numbers 121 dietitian.com. Or even just put my name into a search bar, Gillian Killiner, and that should show up all of my background and details. And then, if they want to email, I'll be more than happy to guide them.
Fantastic, Gillian. It's been really, really nice to have you, and have a beautiful continuation of the day. And I hope to have you again as a guest soon.
Many, many thanks, Erica. It's been lovely to chat to you too.
I hope you enjoyed this episode. I love Gillian Killiner philosophy and approach to nutrition. If you wanted to get in contact with Gillian, please check out the notes below. And if you wanted to do a great straight workout, I advise you to go and check out Caroline Girvan's workout YouTube channel and her Facebook community, where you can find Gillian Killiner. And as ever, this episode is sponsored by 33 Fuel, the best award in natural sport nutrition. If you wanted to try it, just go to 33fuel.com. Stay tuned for the next one.